Hey everyone, glad to see you here back at Microsoft Dev Radio. We're talking to really interesting people about really interesting topics. Today I have Ryan Berry with me. He's a cloud solution architect who has been telling me some interesting stuff about infrastructure automation. And Ryan, I don't really want to spoil what you have to share today. I just want to sit back and listen to all these stories you got to tell. So thank you for coming on the show, Ryan. What do you want to talk to us about today?
Sure, absolutely. The that I think is a kind of, I shouldn't say it's as common of a misconception these days, but it certainly comes up often in talking to customers is that um, invariably by the product's name, it has the word DevOps, dev in the title. Likewise, GitHub, which is another capability we have that can facilitate, doing automated tasks when it comes to taking your code and moving it into different environments. Both of those tools have some connotations that go along or that are mostly aligned with the developer audience. And I don't think that could be farther from the truth, in that we have a very powerful set of functionality within DevOps that actually allows customers to use it for doing infrastructure automation tasks in environments comprised of mostly servers, whether it be servers in another cloud or servers that might exist in an on-premises data center. When you think about today's typical portfolio of applications, that might be very large public-facing web application or website, or that might have many tens to hundreds or maybe even thousands of servers if it's a big enough property, and trying to maintain some level of consistency across all those machines, and to take code and move it from a environment that your developers are building it in into the production environment that actually needs to host that application, and do it in a manner that doesn't cause downtime to your site, and then also do it in a manner that's consistent across all of those tens to hundreds or thousands of VMs. And DevOps actually provides some powerful tools that can do that in the form of a feature called release automation. And in the GitHub world, it's actually called that, GitHub Actions. Both of those products have some very in how they can facilitate, moving things from the code libraries where the developers are working in and collaborating into an environment where that product application, public-facing website can be used.
Yeah, Ryan, that's super interesting to me. I always hear Azure DevOps and I'm thinking the dev side of DevOps. It comes first, so it's natural for me to think, oh yeah, automating, code release and deployments. And same thing with GitHub Actions. It's always very code centric. Any talks I hear about it, any documentation I see, but seeing that you're using it for the IT pro world to take advantage of some of that automation and some of the organizational project management capabilities in these tools is super interesting. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's an excellent question and segue into some conversation around that. So I give you some specific customer examples. Working with a ISV that has a portfolio of products that they make available to their customers through mostly VMs. So they host those VMs in Azure, and they're a growing company, and they were able at one point in time to be able to manage all of those servers across their portfolio of customers with a lot of PowerShell automation, which is all well and good. At least they had some level of automation instead of logging into the portal and clicking around all of the, at that time it was probably hundreds of machines that was comprising all their customers' environments. So fast forward to where they are today, and they had some regulatory requirements they have to abide by, being kind of in a financial services world where their operations team doesn't have the ability to just arbitrarily log into one of their customer subscriptions and make changes to it. So they have these rails, these brick walls that are purposely put up to allow them to abide by the regulatory requirements. And then also, because their environment was growing, it required and necessitated another level of automation that was challenging to do with this somewhat fragile set of scripts. So Azure DevOps has the ability to enroll or enlist a machine, whether it be, again, doesn't matter where that machine is at, or physical or virtual, um, to make it an endpoint that you can instruct remotely from Azure DevOps to do things. And those things don't have to be code related. I mean, most certainly in a lot of cases they are, taking code artifacts from someplace and installing them down on the server. But it could also be as simple as changing the IS app pool setting to some different version of the .NET runtime, as an example. So it might be administrative functions or tasks that need to be done on those machines, and by virtue of having that agent, and in this case now they have many thousands of servers, they can actually target them all or individually or in groups through an Azure DevOps release pipeline to change the behavior, roll out new versions of the product. And they use it in a bunch of interesting ways. So now that they have their, all of their machines with these agents on them, they can tag them or categorize them into different regions of the world, different, in Asia, there's different, obviously the time zone differences that apply there. The outage windows that they advertise to their customers, they're not able to easily abide by that, because they can have automation in place that says that, in the middle of the night in Asia, have this release pipeline get triggered that targets all of the machines that have a tag of being in Asia. Or maybe they have some customers who need some new features that they're not ready to ship widely to their broad set of customers, and they can tag those customers, those VMs that support that customer, as early adopter customers. So they can have a release job that says, I want to just take this code, this product release, and target it only on the pieces of infrastructure that customers have opted in to getting those early bits. So it's allowed them to do a lot of orchestrated automation for releasing their software. And the other really significant thing that I'm kind of glossing over, I mentioned the regulatory requirements they have to abide by. No human being in their environment has access to any of their production environments or any of their customers' environments. And that is purposeful and by design. So that allows them to abide by their security requirements that they are telling the regulators that they put in place. So the only vehicle that they have to do things on all of these, thousands of machines is they have an automation first philosophy to doing things across all these machines. So that instills a level of consistency now, because they're all going to be configured the same. And secondly, the Azure DevOps is the only thing that has the ability to reach out to key vaults to get connection strings or storage account keys and that sort of thing. And Azure DevOps pulls those out and actually pushes them into the environment that they're intended for. So there's very strict and regulated control over things like secrets, and then also to the environment itself, to be able to kind of control and manage, who has access to that.
Ryan, this is absolutely impressive and interesting to me, because two things that really come to mind is that we can now support rolling deployments in an automated way, whether they're emergency deployments or planned deployments across geographies or customer segments. And then just talking about lights out immutable infrastructure, being able to implement that easily within organizations. So I know we're running low on time, but I really have to ask you, this sounds transformative to me. Like, how transformative has this been to the people that you've worked with and the customers that you've worked with?
So it's been extremely transformative, and that customer, that was really an eye-opening situation for me to see the aha moment. I mean, I always knew it could do things in the infrastructure world, but when you design an entire portfolio of actions around the tools that we have available, a la DevOps, I've been imparting that on all of my customers, and because this is a common set of challenges that customers are faced with. They want to restrict and control access to environments and make sure everything's done in a consistent manner. There's lots of different ways to do that. Chef, Puppet, desired state configuration, and Azure DevOps is a piece of that puzzle to be able to automate those actions and operations. and it can be done in a really easy way.
Yeah, well, again, Ryan, this is super impressive. Really excited that you decided to come on today. Thank you so much for your time. Um, Everyone, we're going to keep bringing you really good, interesting topics, really, really cool projects that CSAs are working on and telling you more about what you can do in the cloud. So thank you again for your time. Make sure you subscribe so that you know when we go live again. And Ryan, thank you again for coming on today.
No problem. Happy to be on.